Why are you laughing? What's funny?
I'm, I'm just watching the countdown. It's a long countdown. It's
Oh
five,
man.
4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the Coachlogik podcast. I'm your host, joined by a man who's ruined more introductions than anyone else, Joshua Gibson. Josh, how are you doing right now?
The podcast game is a slow game. It's what we call gradual evolution. Changes
Mm,
gradually over time. And I remember I did a handful of podcasts with Seb, and then you kind of go in eras, right? And there's this era where I would drink. I'm very glad I retired from this era or graduated from it. I would drink coffee with like chocolate milk and hot chocolate mix, and
what?
he would just
And
give
then
me
and then you turned six? Hot chocolate
my
and hot. God,
my
Josh.
rationale was it had more protein. I
Okay.
mean, realistically, it was more
A
palatable.
lot of bodybuilders in the 90s bulked up on Nestle instant hot chocolate powder. I've heard that. Dorian Yates was big on that.
And then the coffee is a pre-workout. It's caffeine. I mean, physiologically, it checks. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Josh's nutritional habits have evolved. Not much. Still a massive sweets fiend, from what I can tell. Uh, Today, what are we talking about, Josh? What should we talk about today? Because I feel like there's a lot that's gone on in the world of weightlifting. There's a lot that's gone on in the world of coaching and training. Things are coming up. Things are happening. We've got nationals coming up. We've got the Olympics happening. What are your thoughts? Where should we start?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really excited for nationals. I think that's going to be a fun event. I like that it's a little earlier in June. So it's the middle of June. It's not the first week of July. So as a strength coach at a high school, I get that week of July 4th off. So I'm going to be vacationing somewhere instead of at a national meet, which is great. So
Wow.
I'm excited for nationals. We're gonna have a booth. I don't know if you can talk about this on air,
Yep.
but we're gonna have
Yeah.
a booth. We're gonna talk about the platform. We're gonna we're not selling anyone because the reality of it is like this is what weightlifters need. This is what coaches need. This is what powerlifting coaches, strength coaches, all coaches need, right? It's there's a void in the market, which is a quality coaching platform that can capture all the information we need, can deliver it in a digestible way, and it can deliver it to coaches, and then deliver useful and tangible information to athletes in a very understandable way. So we're going to be talking about the Coachlogik platform at nationals,
Yeah.
which is a highlight for me.
Yeah, well, it'll be available to sign up for at nationals. So we're gonna have a booth there. Yeah, like you said, we're gonna be basically promoting it, showing people how it works, showing what we've done. I'm super excited. I'm also, basically working every day, scrambling to make sure we get every little piece in there. Obviously, we're gonna, we'll release it with certain features and then kind of build those feature sets out more as we see users give us information. The best way to do this, in my experience, has been get a product out, get it to the market, get that feedback loop as short and as fast as you can get it. So when we find out what you don't like, we change it. We make things we want. And we build things people want. So I'm super excited for that. Like you said, one thing I want to touch on that I'm actually kind of curious that you and I are privy to or got some information about from a lifter named, I believe, Huntington Hayes. He shared with me and you through a group chat that the high school weightlifting state championships in Florida, I don't think it was at this meet, but throughout the whole season,
Mm.
something like 10,000 athletes had done weightlifting at least once in that season as a sport. Um, and then he said he looked it up and it was like 6,000 the year before or a couple of years back. So let's just say it's somewhere in that range, 5 to 10,000, right? Who knows the actual number? That's insane to me that it is that big in Florida. The Florida high school weightlifting scene is massive. And so my question is, one, how do you think coaches could benefit from it? How could coaches capitalize on what's going on there? And then two, what do you think would be like the best approach to trying to, I say replicate that, but like for a coach who's in an area that doesn't have, high school weightlifting, like what do you think would be the closest replication to that for a regular gym owner or a high school level coach or a coach, right? Like how could they do something similar to that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I think people listen to the podcast, they see our content, and they're like, "Oh, this is what Max and Josh have going on. They're just coaches, and they got these products." I am in the process working with someone else because I'm a strength coach at a high school. There are two other strength coaches at high schools in West Virginia that I know, and I'm really in the process of making weightlifting a club sport at the high school that I'm at.
No, nice.
Coach Hannah is, I think, on like the final stages of making it a club sport at the high school she's at. And then we want to get it, obviously, potentially as a club sport at the third high school, but kind of from that point, get it pushed to a like varsity sport. So
Nice.
we're actually kind of bringing kids in. So I have a kid who I do S&C for. I'm getting him to kind of lead the club sport development. She has someone who Coach Hannah has someone she was working with to get them to lead the development of the club team. So we're actually trying to develop our own little like teams that we can take to nationals, use nationals, and have compete, and
That's
then
awesome.
take that the next step up of like, can we do that in the high schools of West Virginia? Can we do that in the high schools in Ohio and Pennsylvania? Can we get like this tri-state weightlifting as sport in this
You,
area?
you,
And largely, it's using Florida as the model. And I had a long conversation with Corey, who was responsible for getting the snatch. As one of the competitive lifts in high school weightlifting in Florida now. So that took like 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. And then I had a conversation
yeah,
with Danny, who has been a product of it, but also has majorly contributed to coaching, training athletes, as well as, I mean, developing coaches, developing, weightlifting in Florida, just kind of writ large. That's a podcast that everyone can listen to if they're interested. It's the Philosophical Weightlifting Podcast. But when I hear that and I hear Corey say, I have 70 kids on the team, 70 guys on the team, 70 girls on the team, and you're like, okay, you have like over 100 people involved in weightlifting in a high school. And those people potentially aren't seeing USAW, aren't seeing collegiate weightlifting. They're just kind of like doing it in high school. That's it. Um, I'm like, oh, like shit. Like, let's create that funnel. Let's get people involved. Let's get people interested. And if anyone listening has done S&C, at like a high school or middle school level, like some kids love lifting weights. Some kids
yeah,
like cleaning. Some kids like squatting. Some kids like benching. Like kids want to do that. They want to do it competitively. They want to be more involved. And it's like, it's finding those kids. It's helping them figure out how we can make it something that's a viable opportunity for everyone. And then kind of taking steps up from a high school level to, a county level to a state level to a tri-state level. So I really think it's just like finding that initiative, finding the people who can do it and having the interest, and then saying like, there's a model that's been done that's in Florida. Let's do it here. Let's transplant it.
yeah. I think that's awesome. I think that's kind of that's if I was a coach, if I was a coach, I am a coach. If I was a new coach coming into this, I would think more about, okay, how am I going to build a long-term, farm system for my team? Because like if your goal as a coach is like, let's say you want to coach an Olympian or you want to coach a world team member or something, you could sit there looking for that, or you could take this other approach, which is build a farm team and just let it run, and eventually you'll churn out somebody who's talented. They'll just find their way through it. It happened with Hassle Free. It happens in Florida all the time. It happens in a lot of these places. Dane Miller's done it up in Pennsylvania. Like you just get lots of kids through the door, and the talent will rise, and eventually you'll have somebody who's good, and you can kind of work on that. The benefit of that too, of focusing only on this youth level or maybe high school level, is that there's so many benefits. One, you bring people in that are new, so you get to teach them about the sport in a way that is, maybe very different than what they would learn on the internet or learn somewhere else. You have a chance to sort of convey it as a serious thing. That's, there's prestige in the Olympics or prestige in worlds or whatever. It's not like they're learning it from like the meme pages or from whatever, some who knows where, right? Um, so that's a benefit. You also get to instill the culture into these people because maybe it's the first time they've ever lifted weights. So you get to sort of instruct these people in their journey of training and lifting and competing. It's just such a smart way to go about the process. Get a young team going and build off of that because you'll pull everybody else in from there. It provides everything you need. I'm actually more surprised it's not a more common approach from most coaches is to try to get youth and young people in, and be focused on that. And I get it, like in a lot of ways, some people don't like working with kids. It's not their thing. They don't enjoy it. Some people don't like, they have no access to it. There's no schools around them. There's nothing around them. But I do think it's the best. It's one of the best ways to approach it. If I was a new coach, that's what I would do. I would focus on, let me build a team and try to get into high schools, kind of like what you've done, try to get, become a volunteer strength coach or something, or, get involved in it and try to, instill the idea of building out, a team of those people. When I started, I had already started weightlifting, but these two guys from the university came down to my high school and did a demonstration, snatch and clean and jerk. And it was cool. And I thought that was awesome. And I was like, this is so cool. Like I wanted to do it before that, but it was like that got me super interested. And I actually went up to the university and met with them and started training with them. So that was kind of like, it's cool. I think that's the thing that like building these high school teams, building the stuff that you've done is the way to do it.
Well, I think so. There are a few things I'd say. The first is, I think I've said this before, weightlifting is a luxury sport. I mean, to get someone to walk in and for them to pay you whatever amount, and it's like, teach me to snatch and clean and jerk. I'll be here for an hour and a half. I'll be here 3 days a week, every week, reliably. And like, yeah, there are all these things of like, well, peak performance and, potential, and you drank the night before. But it's like, realistically, someone's paying you to weightlift. And you get to teach them kind of from the ground up, and you get to be their experience with weightlifting. And it's slow. It's like your process that's prioritized. You go into a strength and conditioning situation setting, and it's like, I have 1 hour to get an entire workout with 40 kids, 60 kids, or it's like, you have a team consistently and then they just stop showing up. Kids stop showing up. And then it's like, okay, so the dropout rate is unpredictable. When you get kids, how long, how many people are in the room, what their sport is, what their wants are. Like, because the kid's like, I just have to kind of show up because the coach told me to. And then it's like, that's the only time you see them. So there are like all these considerations. And then you go up the levels for S&C, or you go into other sports and coaching in a private performance setting, and it's just like, coaching is so much more than, we're going to start from the top down and I'm going to teach you the snatch, clean and jerk. And we're going to do, snatch on day 1 and clean and jerk on day 2 and both lifts. Like that's so just like, that's not coaching. And I feel like, people get into weightlifting and they confuse it with that of like, oh, I'm a coach. It's like, you coach like a niche population in weightlifting.
That's interesting because I always thought coaching was three things. Coaching is, first, it's copy paste. That's how you make programs. You just copy the old one, paste it in the new one, and then you tell somebody it's individualized. Then the second is, it's all about the cues, and like you just like, you say the right cue, and it's like a magic happens in someone's brain, and then they do it right. And then the third is making sure you get on Instagram and congratulate yourself to tell people about how you're a great person and a coach because you did the thing you told people you're going to do, or you did X, Y, and Z, or you did your job exactly how it was expected you do your job. And you're saying that's not coaching. That's not the triad of a great coach, those three elements.
I'm saying it's slightly different. It's slightly different.
Oh, weird. That's so weird. Huh.
But like my point
news
is,
to me.
Yeah, I mean, like my point is, like, broadly, like, people get into weightlifting or powerlifting. It's like, oh, I'm a coach. I'm a strength coach. It's like, I guess, but it's a lot more complicated. See, you're not kind of like opened up to these opportunities or possibilities. I wouldn't really have known about this or pursued it unless I, happened to be at a high school coaching. Happened to, know Carl from Palm Beach, who's like, oh, Corey did this thing. And I was like, connect me with Corey, connect me with Danny. We had that conversation. It's like, oh, now it feels like this unexplored area and like something that was relegated to Florida is like a possibility for all states and all schools. It's like, why didn't anyone do it? It's like, because no one just thought and saw it through. But like the way they talked about it, it's not some complicated, difficult process. It's just a process. And it's like, do you want it? If you want it, you can make it happen. You just have to jump through a handful of hoops.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So let's say, you're a new coach. You get into this. You see this high school thing in Florida. You're Josh, right? Do you move to Florida and start a gym and start coaching there? Because it's like, how easy would it be to just get near some big high school and be like, hey, I've got a program, or get involved in the school and get in there? I'm not saying it's easy, but like, how much more direct of a route would that be? Would you have taken this as an opportunity? Like, assuming you're not doing what you're doing now, but the young
I
Josh,
mean,
would you have done that?
yeah, my whole career up to this point, professional career, academic, whatever, has been built with the idea and the premise, and maybe you can think however you want about it, of like, how do I do something different? Like, how do I do it different, better, um, more completely? It's like, because I see what everyone's doing. It's like, oh, everyone's producing like national level lifters, international level lifters. Like, well, I want to do that, but I also want to do something beyond that. I don't just want to do what everyone else has done. Because if I wanted to
Hmm.
do that, like, I don't think it'd be hard. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, but like, you can find the lifters, you can take them to the international level or national level, and like maybe you don't, but you open a weightlifting gym, you get enough people in, and you'll have success. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
well, I don't want to just do that. So it's like, open it up to powerlifting. Okay, well, that's really cool, but like, but I want to know coaching more completely and be a better coach. It's like, open it up to S&C. Um, and then like expanding the academic side of things. It's like, you talk about sports science. It's like, well, be about sports science, or at least understand it, or at least, get as close to it as possible. Um, so for me, it's always like this process of differentiation, and that ultimately is what creates like a unique product, um, a unique like experience, but also one that like is very complementary. So when you say, well, just move down to Florida, it's like, yeah, you could do that. And it's maybe scary and hard, but like, yeah, you could find success there. But it's like, why don't we just bring high school weightlifting to another state where that
yeah,
doesn't exist? It's like, how do we leave a bigger mark, make a bigger impact, be a bigger part of weightlifting and its expansion? Um, and that's not embedding yourself in a system that's already built. That's building a system. And I guess
right.
that's ultimately like what I've been doing is like, I've never felt like satisfied with doing what someone else has done completely, but it's like, how do I build my own system, build my own process with what I've learned? And I think that's kind of the same with coaching. It's like, I don't know, bring it up here, bring it up to the east, bring it up to the northeast, bring it up to the northwest, bring it up to the Midwest. Like, let's get all over the U.S. Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. Um, okay, moving on. For me, I guess I'm gonna be in the UK. We're gonna be in the UK in a few weeks doing our second weightlifting AI camp. So we're gonna do it at a gym called MSC in near Birmingham, so right near the weightlifting house headquarters. So I'm super excited for that. Uh, and my sort of topic I want to discuss a little bit with you is this the training camp, like the sort of humble training camp. So we're doing it more as a way to try to connect the community of weightlifting AI users a bit more, get them some hands-on coaching, get them, to meet us and chat. And it was the last one we did was awesome, so much fun
Yeah,
at
that's
our
great.
gym. You were there, which was unfortunate, but we all put up with it. But overall, it was like a great experience. Everyone, I think, learned a lot, had a good time. A lot of people made PRs. how effective do you think training camps are, like from a I guess a performance standpoint, but like a team standpoint? Like I feel like training camps were they seemed like they were more popular pre-COVID, or they were happening a lot, and
Mm.
now it seems like they happen a little bit less so. I mean, I still see them, but like it seems like the training camp sort of era has shifted or changed. I mean, I don't know if you see that as well, but what do you think are, I guess like, you know, benefits of training camps? Do you think they're worth doing? Do you think it makes sense, from that perspective of, trying to make your team better?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, a lot of it is going to be. It's not the X's and O's. I mean, like realistically, like you're not going to learn the techniques and tactics and
Yeah.
understand the sport and understand the theory, and like you can get a good glimpse and you get some exposure. You can have great conversations about it, but like realistically, what you're going for
Hmm.
is exactly what you mentioned when those two kids came down from the university to the high school and put on a demo, and you're like, weightlifting's fucking
Yeah.
cool. Like
Yeah.
weightlifting is awesome. What a training camp is an opportunity to embed a feeling and embed an experience in someone's like athlete uh process, or just like weightlifting process, or they're part of being in the sport, but you're trying to solidify a feeling of like, this is a really cool thing, there's a lot to it, it can be really fun, it can be really community oriented, it can be done at a high level, it can be done with high quality, and that shared experience, I think, enriches it enough to where it can like take you to the next step of, well, maybe I want to coach this thing. Maybe I want to
Mm.
compete at our level. Maybe I want to become create a media company, or just embed myself in weightlifting further. And maybe, shift my focus into weightlifting a bit more. So a training camp from an X's and O standpoint is pretty useless. But from like a direct experience and like enjoyment of the sport, it's just, that's great. Like it's unmatched. It's unmatched. I was reminiscing over like a few of the seminars we did in Canada like a year or two ago now. It's like those were great experiences. Like so much fun catching up with Jordan, going to his gym, lifting with everyone, just watching people max out, just like helping people out, being a part of their process, being a part of their enjoyment of the sport, and like creating lifetime memories. And that's what a training camp is.
Yeah. I agree. I will say this about training camps. The thing I like about them is I think they elevate the overall energy a lot. I know you and Seb did the training camp with Glenn years back, and that
Yeah.
seemed to be like a pivotal moment for you, for both of you. The way you both talk about it, as though like it was this monumental sort of like it was this awesome thing, right? You go in, you max out, and it's like when you're a young guy, like you don't think about it in the moment. You're thinking, because Seb made his like best snatch then, and that
Yeah.
was it. He never made another
Yeah.
PR again.
On the same
Um,
platform with me.
yeah, yeah. So I see it as kind of this thing of like they're really great and they're useful for that, because it's like you could be doing these training camps in a way where it's like it really elevates the energy a ton. It brings everyone together and it sort of reinvigorates people's like real experience and kind of love for weightlifting that like competitions do and don't have. Seminars don't really have that. And like, it's like the overall, there's nothing like it, I guess. Like you can train with people regularly, but a lot of times you're just training, you're going to do, your standard training stuff. You're going to do the boring stuff. You're going to do whatever it's the same people all the time. Training camps are, in my opinion, a valuable and maybe like not forgotten, but like just like a valuable tool in the arsenal, where it's like if you planned out 3 or 4 training camps to go to a year and you showed up and go to them, and they're just the awesome experiences where everyone's going really hard and pushing themselves, and you kind of build this camaraderie. It's like a competition because it's high energy. It's like training in the gym because you're doing a lot of stuff, but you also have this benefit of it being this novel experience that I think ultimately really uh, builds up and augments the career training sort of uh, career of an athlete, but it builds up the overall training effect. It's a better way to do it, I think. So yeah, I mean, I think training camps are like maybe an underutilized tool, or we don't do enough of them, right? USAW used to do a little bit of them, and they still kind of do it, but like I wish that maybe they were like more in the regular realm where there was like a
Yeah.
lot of these like sort of group training camps. Even like teams, again, teams going there, like, it'd be cool if USAW maybe hosted like training camps where it was like a national level meet, and there's like a bunch of warm ups and platforms and stuff, but like it's just like 5 or 6 teams everyone's paid to be there, and it's like a cool, 3 day or 4 day long thing or a week long thing where people can really like, get better. But it's more for like the middle of the road people that are like
Yeah.
in the sport, but they're not necessarily high level. They're not kids. They're doing it because they love it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
more
I'll say like
commercial.
my personal experience is whenever I'm in like a weightlifting slump and I go to a training camp. I mean, I went out to Oakland in November last year, cleaned a
Hmm.
PR. It's like I shouldn't
Yeah.
have done that. I shouldn't have made that. I mean, like whenever I'm with you guys, I'll always hit some big lifts I never expect. Um, and I mean that's happened time and time again. Like anytime I go somewhere with a big group of
Yeah.
people, it's a lot of fun. There's great energy. It's like you just pop off for something, and you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of like getting the wheels moving again. And one thing too that I think is the most undersold aspect is everything around it or surrounding it, which is the things that create those like bonding experience and shared experiences that you can remember later on. So like when Seb and I talked about it, like we always romanticize those training camps of like going to Walmart and Glenn like driving onto the curb and Glenn spraying cooking spray into a direct flame and then like it like shooting up and you're like, oh yeah, it's just fucking
Glenn,
insane that stuff happened.
yeah,
Um
Glenn did a lot of unsafe things as well as we get.
and like it's funny and I honestly I was thinking about it the other day. Someone was talking about good like Mexican food in Morgantown, like good tacos or something, and they're like, oh, that doesn't exist. And my buddy was like, yeah, well, back when I was in California or whatever, we went to this one place, and I remember the day I left, it might have been the morning of. There's this truck that pulls up in front of the gym, and they sell like breakfast sandwiches and stuff. We got a breakfast sandwich. I got like a fruit plate, and it's like that was great. Like I actually remember that. I thought about it. And it's like those are the memories or the situations you're trying to create with
Yeah.
training camps where it's like we all go to public market, we all have a great meal, we all bullshit about weightlifting. Sally French is there, and all these people, and it's like that's the stuff that really really matters because you create such a strong emotional connection around it.
Yeah.
People want to keep doing. They want to
Yeah.
stay in the sport for those connections, for those experiences. And if you think about it holistically, it's like it's not just making a 126 snatch. It's like it's I don't know, going out in the back and looking at all of Glenn's chickens and
Yeah.
just thinking how fucking insane that is that they have like a fishery in the back of their property.
I'm getting a lot of this vibe that Glenn was an odd dude, and we all know that that's true. Um, yeah, so I mean, I think that's kind of the nature of the training camp. I think that's something we should probably be pushing more towards. And obviously, there's probably a lot of people doing training camps. I don't think it's like a forgotten thing, but I do think that in general, the training camp is like a kind of unused or relatively little used thing. I don't see lots of it happening. But also from a coaching perspective, I'd love to see not just like a commercial thing where it's like, you know, athletes pay to go to a training camp with some coach, but I'd love to see like different teams get together and do training
Yeah.
camps, right? Like more like a national meet where you have like 5 or 6 coaches, 5 or 6 teams. They bring, a bunch of lifters, everyone gets together, and it's like a really cool environment where everyone can kind of learn and people can talk to each other, coaches can share information. Um, I think that'd be super cool. I would love to
Yeah.
see us organize something like that at some point. Um, you know, the training camp for teams, for coaches, it's more of a thing that's built around lots of coaches being there and not about just, running people through.
Yeah. I agree. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
It was a great
Anything else you want to add to what we just talked about, or anything you want to share with the audience? Anything you got planned?
Yeah, I'll share this, and I think this is kind of like my piece of wisdom for the day. I've talked to enough strength coaches. I've listened to enough strength coaches talk. I've talked to a ton of weightlifting coaches, powerlifting coaches. Like, I've talked to the best of the best, the people who are the movers and shakers, and there's very little we don't know. And I think it really comes down to execution. And I know that's like that's a common thing everyone says, but realistically, I'm sure we all have access to the same information, but the opportunities and the successes and failures, it's really chalked up to execution. It's who can differentiate themselves through what they do, and then who can differentiate themselves through what they get other people to do. And I think that's when we look at people who are at the top, the people who are talking down to us and telling us their experiences and their processes, that's really what got them there. I don't think there's any magic. Now, I say that, and I know that the magic's in how you apply it, but that's a conversation for a different podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Where can people find you, Josh?
Yeah, I would say go on Instagram, Josh_Phil, WLSPHILWL. That's going to be the best place to contact me. Send me a DM. You can email me at not at, but it'd be philosophicalweightlifting@gmail.com. We'll love to chat. We'll love to kind of, have a conversation about training, coaching, all that stuff. If you want one-on-one coaching, you can also get that there. Weightlifting, powerlifting, general strength. I've been kind of picking up on people that I bring on. So I'd be excited to take on even more lifters and provide them with the opportunity to set PRs.
Nice. Awesome. You can find me obviously on Instagram, Max_Ada. You can check out weightlifting.ai if you want the best training app. Look out for the Coachlogik platform that will be coming out in June at Nationals, somewhere around there. And then, any other interest or anything you want to know about remote coaching or consultation, just head over to teamada.com and I will be there. You can drop a message in the comments. And have a great time, guys. Really, really be thoughtful today and have a great time with training. And I wish you all well.